As you probably already know, I am Kent and I am the founder of Panama Equity. Been doing this since 2008, and we cover the city, beaches, and mountains areas up to about Panama and mostly the Pacific, but a little bit of the Atlantic area, including Bocas del Toro. So here we go. Top news, I would say, for the market is rent prices have come up finally. So a couple examples, we manage quite a few properties around the city, including quite a few on Balboa Avenue. And as you may or may not know, Balboa Avenue is our oceanfront sort of iconic skyline, just sweeping views. Great area. Everybody's doing exercise out there, wake up, look at the ocean, etc. So a 90-meter apartment in Bayfront, for example, which is a building that's about, probably 15 years old now, maybe 14. I want to say 2007, 2008 it got delivered. 90-meter apartment, which is about 1,000 square feet, one bedroom, furnished pre-pandemic, i.e., well, let's call it the beginning of the panic pandemic, where people started dropping their prices because nobody knew what was going to happen. That apartment would have gone for about $750, $800 a month. That was kind of like the trough. That was like, whoa, things got real low. Now you can't find a single one-bedroom apartment on Balboa Avenue for rent for under $1,000, period. And that's a good thing if you're already in a place, and that's reality. If you're still looking for a place, it's very interesting for investors, just because obviously, you look at a property as an investment to either sell it for more later or maintain a yield in the form of rent. So if rents come up, in theory, people are willing to pay a little bit more for investment properties. Now, that has not affected property prices across the board yet. However, staying on the theme of pricing and Avenida Balboa, for example, we have seen a few cases, for example, in pre-construction, where we had some clients purchase multiple units back, let's call it a year and a half ago, in the Nuovo building, for example. Nuovo is brand new. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly of pre-construction. So Nuovo, great developer, pretty much all completely sold out on the front end ocean view. Again, Balboa Avenue property. They paid about $2,500. They're going to be reselling for about $3,000. So, hey, that's what? I don't know. $500 on $2,500, 20%. That's not bad. Also not bad when you take into account that you are putting down not the entire balance on pre-con. So transitioning into pre-construction, we do have a couple new buildings getting delivered. Hyde, the first tower of Hyde, is going to be delivered. They're kind of starting deliveries in about a month or two on lower floors, poco a poco, like little by little. And then obviously, you kind of start lower floor and then you just deliver all the way up. So if you're in one of the top floors, you probably won't be getting your apartment until middle of the year, I think. Developer would love to tell you second quarter. I would say probably the end of second quarter, the beginning of third quarter. But it's coming, and that's an awesome building. So here's the interesting thing when you buy pre-construction. On paper, it looks interesting. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm probably getting a better deal than what it might be in a couple of years. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a safe assumption, but it's definitely not guaranteed because you never know what's going to happen with the market, right? The other thing is that it gets a little tricky to rent it out at the very beginning because obviously if it's a building where most properties have been sold to investors, you've got the challenge of competing against your neighbor. So rental prices tend to get a bit cannibalized in buildings that are primarily sold to investors. We saw that back in the day with Trump, and actually we see that still in Trump / Ocean Club / JW Marriott, whatever you're calling it these days. It's the mixed use big old tower on over there in Punta Pacifica that used to be called Trump. Those rental prices fluctuate because seasonally, if you've got 50 to 100 empty apartments, everybody knows it and prices come down. Versus when you have high occupancy, you sort of have the liberty of asking for a bit more. True in every market. However, some buildings are a bit more exaggerated because it's not a lot of end users versus a building, for example, like Allure. Also near Avenida Balboa, right off of Parque Urraca, that's mostly end users, right? Mostly residents. So you don't have as much rental competition, as much cannibalizing of pricing where, hey, I got to beat out my neighbor or drop my prices just to get it rented. So, okay. So theme number one is rents have increased. We knew they were going to happen. That was going to happen. It's happened. And that's due to a number of factors. One, employees are finally starting to come back, trickling back, not really as much. Two, international travel kind of sort of recovering, coming to Panama. It's been a good busy season already in terms of hotel occupancy, etc. But the big one is, and this we love seeing this coming back, is expats trying it out, right? It's like, oh yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Panama. Maybe I came there a year or two ago. Now I'm going to actually rent a place. That has been single-handedly has affected rental prices this year, and that's a good thing. That could also eventually translate into some purchases. That could translate into some broken leases where people decide that they do not like Panama. We'll do another Facebook Live about why people don't like Panama and what you need to ask yourself if you're thinking about coming. But getting back to the market update and what's going on. So shared one price point, which is a bayfront unit, kind of high floor, furnished, 90 meters, used to be about $750, just rented it for like $1,050. So that's a good thing, right? That's some serious rental appreciation, which has a tendency to drive prices, but not necessarily moving up prices, sales prices. It's not one-to-one. Like rent prices come up, sale prices automatically come up. Panama pricing has been flat for like a long time, like 8 years. We haven't seen much price appreciation. Why is that? Maybe oversupply. Builders got pretty crazy back in 2010 when they were like, oh my God, this is a surefire way to make money. Let's build a building. They all did it at the same time and they all used the same kitchens and the same architect and, and the public benefited because, well, unless you bought and were expecting appreciation. Is it coming? Crystal ball says maybe. I don't know. All right. So a couple other news items, and then we'll go back to the real estate update. Tocumen, good job. Named one of the top 10 busiest sort of hubs in the world. That's a good thing, right? That brings jobs, that brings new eyes, that bring exposure to Panama, and all the good things of, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Cartagena or Bogota, Medellin, but I live in the States and I want to get back to the States every so often. Do I want to deal with a 16-hour travel day that includes multiple layovers and regional carriers, or do I want a one-stop flight back and forth from Panama? So I guess my point is that it also makes it more attractive to live in an area or close to an airport that is truly an international airport where you don't have to deal with multiple connections. It makes traveling to places like Europe, the US easier. So from sort of a lifestyle standpoint, it's nice having a great big airport with Copa based out of it and hundreds of international carriers. Also economically, hey, we like new jobs because new people buy properties for the first time, new international Fortune 500 companies relocate, those people rent. So it's all a part of a market, right? And don't forget, guys, the Panama market is tiny. 3.5 million, maybe 4 million people now. I've told this story before, and I remember, back in 2009 when Procter & Gamble moved here, they brought 1,500 families. Prices went up like this just for one company. Right? Imagine if there's another company looking at Panama right now, maybe it's Unilever, right? To catch up with them, to kind of consolidate Central and South American offices in Panama versus having them in, Guatemala and Argentina and Brazil, whatever. Those tiny little movements that would not even be a blip on a radar of Chicago, San Francisco, DC, London, wherever, actually impact Panama. And it's kind of cool. It's fun to see. And it reminds you that you are in a small market. So continuing with price updates and sort of market trends. Beach is hot right now. We've actually got Matthew Marks, one of our beaches agent, working on a flip, which doesn't happen that often. because prices haven't really been coming up that much. At the beach, same story. Prices have been flat for like 8 years. However, there are still a few distressed properties out there at the beach that can be bought, remodeled, and sold. Now, keep in mind, costs are expensive when you sell a property. Nobody tells you how cheap it is to buy when you're buying, but hey, if you're thinking about buying to sell, don't forget that you're probably looking at about 11%, 5%, 5 to 6% on commissions, and then another 5% on taxes, transfer and capital gains tax. So, and then the lawyers, right? So that's like about 11%. So, either the market's got to move up or you just got to buy well. I mean, somebody smart said real estate's all about timing. You make your money when you buy, and implying obviously low base. So what else can I tell folks looking at the market? So here's a fun one. And I love comments, by the way. I can't see any comments. I don't know if people aren't making them or, people are watching. So hi, curious where you're watching from. What else can I tell you? Here's a cool case study. Prestige. Prestige is a great project from a great developer over in Balboa Avenue. Nice size floor plans. I want to say about maybe, I don't remember. Let's call it 170 meters. So about 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms. Started building at the beginning of the pandemic, right? It's sort of obstructed from the ocean, like obstructed views. It's not obvious what the views are going to be. However, what we've discovered is obviously as the building got higher and higher, the views got better because you could see over the neighboring buildings. Couldn't really figure that out. You kind of could, but you couldn't. Pre-construction. Hey, Steve, thanks for checking in. Welcome from Arizona. So the interesting thing about this building, Prestige, and a nice thing to be studying if you're looking at pre-construction is, and Jatine, I'll answer that in a second. Thank you for your question. I can tell you bank lending rates, forget about it. Bringing in leverage from domestically here in Panama is almost impossible. Rates are way too high, like 7% interest rates, 40% down, especially for multifamily, even higher. You've got to just be 100% equity in Panama, get some leverage from your home country because, it's not, the numbers are not great. For investment properties that are supported by mortgages, you'll just pay your holding costs and that's it. Maybe build some equity, but we haven't had much appreciation in the last 5 years, so you can't bank on that. Okay, so back to this case study of Prestige. Prestige is a building, nice building, luxury, the problem was, and I've never seen this before, but now it makes sense, is I was actually offered one of these units cheap, and I wasn't able to walk the property yet because it wasn't ready, but the architect made the designs on paper. You study a floor plan, right? However, the way they created this floor plan is they had 2 per page, right? Because 2 per floor, logical. However, they looked long and narrow. So I, having done this for 14 years and based on incorrect assumptions, right? Thinking I'm an expert, just assumed that the apartments themselves were going to be narrow. So I didn't actually look at the dimensions like, oh, okay, yeah, 14 meters from wall A to B. That's actually pretty spacious. I didn't go that far. I was just turned off, right? I said, no thanks. However, these apartments came out real nice and not narrow at all. So it was a total, whoever the architect was, I'm sure they're really good. I would never tell them this. They're probably not watching this. My point is that little tiny things and the property is only 50% sold now and it's almost done, which means the developer A is probably going to be pretty motivated to sell, and B could have sold a lot more if they would have had a better looking floor plan on paper. The floor plans are great. It's nice open kitchen, big windows, high ceilings, spacious, well laid out. However, on paper, it didn't look good. And so not very many people bought it. I like that building. It's right behind Costanera, it's across the street from Costanera, which is going to be, I don't know when that's going to be delivered. That's still a bit of ways. That's going to be real nice. A lot of apartments coming online. Okay, let's talk the cons of buying pre-construction. I wanted to cover this today too. So we've got some buildings that are getting ready to get delivered, right? As I mentioned, Prestige is still kind of far away, but like Hyde, First Tower, and Nuovo, very close to getting delivered. Nuovo is actually kind of getting delivered as we speak. So it's good because, yeah, maybe you can buy cheaper 2 years ago. Prices come up a little bit just from the developers pushing up prices, not because the market's coming up, but because, hey, you want the unit? I only got 2 left. Yeah, they're now more expensive, right? Until they're gone. And then they correct down to market price. Now, so there is opportunity there to make a little bit of money, but you can't bank on that. The negative side of buying pre-construction is similar to what I alluded to earlier, which is when you put your apartments on the market for the first time, it's a race because everybody else is trying to do it. If you're in a building where it's mostly investors, Nuovo's not mostly investors. I think Nuovo has quite a few end users, people that don't plan on renting out, etc. Hyde, hard to tell. I think there are a lot of investors there. So prices come way down, like below market. Like you're getting what should normally be a $2,000 a month apartment. You could steal it because the person wants to rent it out quickly because they see 20 other apartments just like theirs on the market. Market price says this should be able to rent for about $2,000. You could probably, as a tenant, get it for like $1,600 because the owner knows that somebody's going to do it. One of the other owners is going to do it. And it's probably not unique to Panama, but it's something I've learned along the way, which is, hey, manage your expectations when you're first getting an apartment because you might have to rent it out for a little bit less just to get through that initial oversupply of units in that building. Rental yields in Costco, Jatine, also typical rental units, in a perfect world, cash on cash, anywhere other than Costco, if you buy well and rent well and able to rent it out quickly, i.e. perfect storm, probably about 5%, right? Bank on about 3%. Costco, a little bit less because property prices are high in Costco. I mean, you're looking at $2,500 to $3,000 a meter, maybe a little bit less if it's an older building. Of course, usually you don't have parking. And Panama is very building specific, but generally you're looking at $2,500 to, as much as $5,000 a meter in Costco. The top end, we represent a few projects in Costco. Top end, $5,000 a meter. You're not going to get that back in rent. No way. I don't think it's possible. People won't pay double to live in Costco. And that's what you would have to do considering average price per square meter in the city is closer to $2,500, right? So yields, Jatine, in Costco are 1% to 2%. Appreciation, yeah, you got scarcity out there, right? You also have some infrastructure improvements. They're talking about the trolley. They're talking about the cable car. They redid the market out there, San Fermin, I think it's called, right next to the seafood market. It's beautiful. Quality of life is much better in Costco, although still, I would argue, not amazing for families, just because of the traffic. There's some great schools out there now. Claire's doing a terrific job running a school there. So yeah, I love the questions, you guys. I try to think of questions that people might have, like how's the market, and speak on that if I'm not interviewing somebody. What else do I have on my little agenda? Yeah, beaches are super active right now. I like Vista Mar. I like Buenaventura. Good things are happening out there. We're seeing a lot more people moving full time there. So that means the schools get better. That means the shops start carrying more things as if, they were in the city, and the mountains are on fire right now. Catherine is doing a terrific job for us. She works for us. That means she's a pro. She tells it how it is. She does what she says. Everything you kind of need in a good real estate agent, she's doing it. So, as much as I would like to attribute her success to her professionalism, I'm sure that helps. But at the end of the day, El Valle and Altos de Maria, we've never sold as many homes up there as we have in the past. Jatine, if you're considering investment properties, you might even, want to look at the mountains unless you're going to be using the property yourself and you could care less about having a place up in Panama's mountains, which are like an hour and a half to start with from the city. So that's kind of everything I had. I don't like to talk this long. I'm actually getting ready to do the same thing in Spanish. If you feel like working on your Spanish, I'm going to re-record this right now in Espanol. Thanks for watching, guys. I always try to catch these comments afterwards as well. So if you're seeing this after we broadcast, be sure to comment and we will jump on the answer. And we're here for you. Everybody that works for Panama Equity is available 24/7. Follow up, follow through, follow back is one of our mottos internally. So you get taken care of. Appreciate you watching. Have a great day. Happy Friday to you. As they say in Panama, ciao.